video. This time I want to talk about Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice, the Ultimate Edition. I watched it about a week ago, and because digital was released, I want to say they said 3 weeks before the official one. And I gotta say, it's like we saw a completely different movie in the theaters, and I don't understand how that was okayed by any studio head, by any supervisor of any kind. It made no sense. This movie makes sense. It's a very dark tale, but it makes sense. You understand each person's motivations for feeling the way they feel. I'm gonna be very, kind of, because I feel like I've been through all of this, not all of it, but I've been through this material talking about Batman v Superman already. So I'm not gonna go into like very super hardcore detail, but I am going to go into detail about some of the subplots and the extra pieces that they put in there. But consider this just an overview so that when you guys go to see it, you will see that there's more going on with it. So you remember how when we saw the first version, we complained about the fact that um, it wasn't very clear why people were pissed at Superman no matter what he did, and that they blamed him for shooting up civilians and soldiers and such, or mercs or whatever they were, even though Superman never uses a gun. Well, in this version, you see that Kanayev, KG Beast, that's KG Beast's real name, the dude with the glasses and the scar over his lip, that he was in 300, Rise of an Empire. He's in a lot of sword and sandal stuff as well as a lot of action films these days. But that actor, his character was Anatoly Kanayev, and Kanayev was in charge of the mercs that worked for Luthor. And essentially, the setup was, and the movie illustrates this really well, Superman was blamed for burning hundreds of people from the villages in the surrounding area, which was actually done by Kanayev, the dude who was going to burn Superman's mother. And you actually see this. They gather up a whole bunch of people after they shoot the opposing side, and then they put him in a circle, knock him down, and he just lights them on fire with his fucking blowtorch. This is what people are accusing Superman of doing, and then this information is what makes Batman so pissed. He's already pissed at the fact that this guy is so strong, so powerful, but he was careless. And he got to see it firsthand. The ants are looking up at the gods fighting in the sky. So I get that part. They beat that shit home. But as far as what the people and Batman were really pissed off about is the fact that they believed that Superman came down, decimated the enemy forces, and then lit those other people, those innocents, on fire with his heat vision just because. Superman, on the other hand, is mad at Batman when he actually goes off and investigates the brandings that Batman had been doing to the various, criminals that he takes down, and how so many of them die. And one specific one, which is the guy you meet in the beginning when Batman's all creepy up in the corner and shit, that guy had a family. I mean, it wasn't official or anything because he's that kind of guy, but still, he had a baby's mom, I guess, and a baby. And, he was somewhat providing for them, I guess. And now that he's dead, he can't really do anything, right? Um, and that was one of the things that led Clark to dig deeper. He's digging, he's digging, he's digging. Then he comes across that, and he's like, shit, this actually goes a little bit deeper than just Batman being angry, And then he's hearing from all these different people he's meeting in Gotham. It's another thing. In the theatrical cut, Clark disappears, but you don't see where he goes. In this, he disappears, he leaves, the Daily Planet, and actually goes to Gotham. You see him go on a ferry to go across the bay, goes to Gotham, he's talking to random people, he's going to the apartment of the African woman who lost family over in, what's it called? Nairobi? Which isn't even a real, I don't know. It's DC, I don't know. They're doing weird stuff. They could have just said Nairobi. It's not like the Nairobi government would have been like, no, you cannot use the name of our place. You cannot. I don't even understand the logic behind that. But whatever, I'm not making this film, But there's a whole subplot with her where you find out that she was actually forced to give that false testimony about Superman coming out of the sky and he just does what he wants and him killing all those people and how she saw it. She didn't see shit. She was told to say that she saw it. I was like, man, this is fucked up. And then they even Kniazev kills her, and that's another thing that pisses Superman off, and makes him like, I gotta take out, or pisses off Batman. I'm sorry, I gotta stop this shit. So there are multiple plot points that are explored in great detail in this extended cut, which makes you wonder, why did they cut? Why the fuck would you cut this stuff out? I mean, you clearly could tell when you're watching the theatrical version that stuff is missing. Things are missing. The story does not make sense. And then, like, to actually see why, I don't know, to actually see the pieces put back in and see what was missing, it just doesn't make sense. It almost feels like the early screenings were so bad that they reshot and added in information so that they could release this quote-unquote ultimate cut and fix the plot points. It almost feels like Chris Terrio, these are all the pieces that Chris Terrio put back into the story to make it make sense, because David Goyer wrote such a hackneyed script that was missing so many pieces that, this was necessary. Another thing was Lois's fact hunt, with the bullet and all that stuff. You find out that she was also being played by Lex Luthor because of her connection to Superman. The reason why Lex was able to manipulate Superman is because he knew that wherever Lois was, and he tells you this even in the theatrical version, it's just that it wasn't blatantly obvious because you didn't get to see all the other parts. But he just says, the easiest way for him to manipulate Superman was to just put her in danger, and that was the easiest way to get Superman's attention, was always to use Lois. So she was being played, being moved around on the chessboard, while Lex was like, I already got all the other parts, the other pawns in place. This made him seem so much more diabolical and so much more intelligent and so much more of a villain and not such a crackpot. He still seemed fucking crazy. He still seems somewhat like, Riddler-like so many of you have said. Even some have said Joker-like, but he seemed more like a supervillain and less like just an off-kilter, eccentric billionaire, Because all that's there too, but he was actually fucking evil. And it made sense. When you see him getting mad and you see all the stuff and you understand his hatred for Superman, it's like, how do I put it? He just can't believe that there's someone out there like this powerful and that he's a good guy, because he would have wanted to be saved. And it's this part is not so much beaten into your head more in this version, but it is part of this version. It is a plot point that's present, and it makes more sense, along with all the other information that you're seeing, Parts with why was Clark Kent at the gala, you get an explanation for that too. He was actually sent there. Why did Clark Kent not know who Bruce Wayne was? They explain that Bruce Wayne doesn't really get out and do much anymore. Why was the only thing they don't explain, which still pisses me off, and as if I was directing the film, I would have suggested this, and who's to say that this didn't happen? But that intro where you see the Waynes die for the umpteenth billionth time could have been completely removed, and we could have gotten a prologue that shows what Batman was going through with Robin before Robin was killed, or whatever, And that could be the easiest way to explain this is why Batman went off the deep end. Instead, you watch the Waynes get shot again. It's like they're competing with Kenny for the most number of kills on screen, or being killed on screen, and it's kind of tiring to see that so many times still. But it's reinforced in this film. in this version also. Um, there's a couple more shots of Wonder Woman. They actually made they got Gadot more so much healthier. I mean, she's like actually. I mean, she's still kind of she's got that athletic, flat chest kind of you know what I mean look. And I'm not saying that's something she can help other than get freaking implants or something like that. And I'm not saying that that's what she should do. I'm just describing what I see. She's more of the athletic, almost like a runner, like a track star, but she's so much more built than she was in the Fast and Furious films. Like her legs are bigger, arms are bigger, her hips, everything is built up. All the muscle that she already had, the frame she had, is very well built up, and that's one thing I have to give Snyder and company is that the trainer, and I forgot his name, but it's Zack Snyder's personal trainer. He trains all these actors and gets them to look the part physically. And my God, because you saw what he did with Angie Trow in Man of Steel. She played Feora. My God, her body was insane. And then you see how they got, Wonder Woman to look. She looks powerful without being like what I had imagined she should look like. Like I wanted more of a Gina Carano type. Even what's her name? That so many people don't like her anymore. I've never really been a big fan, but Ronda Rousey. She has that thickness to her build. You know what I mean? And that's what I wanted for my Wonder Woman. That's what I imagined, and that's what I would have worked towards if I was the director. But he gave us another version which is closer to what we more commonly see in the comics, with the artist that actually can draw women. So, props to them for that. I was really happy with that. There were a lot more scenes of Wonder Woman kind of doing something before the scene that you already saw in the theatrical version. And it was a nice little change, you know. Um, what else? Every action sequence had a couple little parts added to it, and they all fit in well to the point where at first I didn't even realize. I had to watch 2 times to realize, like, oh, they did change stuff because it was real subtle things like reaction shots and far like a far shot where you can see all the action happening on screen all at once. There are a couple shots where Batman's just watching the craziness happen in the end battle that weren't in the theatrical cut. And it's nothing that will blow your mind, and it's nothing that fixes some of the issues I had with the fights, because some of the fights, with the exception of Batman's fight when he saves Martha, um, with the exception of that fight, all the fights in the movie were kind of whack. Like they were really just boring, And I'm like, say what you will about Sucker Punch, but all the action sequences in that movie were awesome. And I wanted the level that you get with that, or even the Matrix. When you think back, the Matrix didn't have superheroes per se, but it had people doing superheroic things. And now you have the actual superheroes that a lot of those characters were modeled after. Like Neo is the Superman type character, Morpheus is the Batman type character. You know what I mean? In the sense that he's the brains, he's the smart guy who's teaching everyone else stuff. Neo is the most powerful character in that universe. And then Trinity is second to Neo, or even maybe Morpheus, as far as skills and stuff go. And she would be the closest you'd have to Wonder Woman. And when you look at them, it's like their version of the Trinity, and that's what you got. Now you have the actual Trinity, but you didn't push the envelope to get action that was more impressive than what we got with people modeled after the Trinity. You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't make sense. I read an article where Snyder was talking about not really being prepared for the kind of backlash that he got, and that with Justice League, he's taking the gloves off and it's going to be crazy. Let's hope the script allows for that, because what we're seeing a lot of is Snyder can do better, but the script is not pushing anything. So you get kind of a meh experience. So I hope that by the time Justice League comes around, we get a little bit, a lot more action, a lot more awesomeness. I don't want to. I don't want another lackluster DC film. I think that my time I still love DC more than the characters more than I like Marvel. Um, I like Marvel movies, but I don't like Marvel comics like I used to. Um, I don't really feel like there was a point in time where I felt like I would want to sell my own stuff to DC, and I'll say that time is past. But I want to see some of these characters represented the way that they more. I'm not even gonna beat around the bush. I want to see them represented the way they should be represented. You know, a consistent representation of these characters, and I don't want to see this watered down BS. I don't like seeing characters watered down so hard. It's lame. It's really lame. Um, it's not fun to see it because it's not the way that it's just not the way that the characters were intended. And to see someone else try to use their version and their sensibilities to one up over 75 years of storytelling, it just doesn't seem necessary. But what we're here for and what we're talking about is this Ultimate Edition and the things it does right. And it does a lot of things right. So much so that it makes this movie a good movie. It's not amazing. It's not life changing. It's not like the best thing I've ever seen. It's not even close. But it's a good watch. It feels legit. Motivations make sense. It doesn't feel like it was just thrown together the way that the theatrical version did. And I'm all for people working and for give people the benefit of the doubt, but somebody needs to have some words with whoever gave the okay to the editor to edit it that way. Whoever supervised that piece of the project, there needs words to be exchanged because that shit's unacceptable. You know what I mean? Like, it's really, really bad that you had this much information and instead of cutting, I don't know, the Wayne's death out of it, something we don't need to see, instead of cutting the fucking bats lifting the child up into the air, instead of cutting, any and all of the fucking dream sequences or the really badly placed, poorly placed, you know, trailer for the rest of the league. Instead of cutting those out, you cut out vital parts of the story. And you're supposed to be laying the groundwork, but you still have a story to tell. So there's no excuse for them not cutting out the right things. We could have done without that shit, some of the other shit. We could have had some of those parts show up at the end during the credits. People already are trained to sit down to, during the credits. And I understand you don't want to do everything that Marvel does, but I mean, at this point, you may as well. They got out the gate with a style, and you have to make up lost time. So if it takes you imitating what Marvel did, but with your own darker take, go ahead and do that. I don't see any reason why they can't do that. But that's pretty much it. Those are my thoughts. That's how I felt about the Ultimate Edition. I think it saves the movie ultimately. It makes the movie more watchable. And for a lot of people, it will create it'll give the movie a second chance. And there were talks about, and I don't know if this is true, Agent O and I were talking a couple days ago, and he read somewhere that there was there's going to be oh no, it wasn't Agent O. It was one of my other homeboys. We were talking, and they said they read that there's going to be a limited theatrical release of the Ultimate Cut. And it's strange that they didn't do this to begin with, because I mean, the Lord of the Rings movies are 3 hours long, and this thing is just 3 hours. So maybe 3 hours and some change, but it's not that long. It's not close to 4 hours. Whereas, the Lord of the Rings movies were over 3 hours long, and their ultimate cuts were well over 4 hours. So it's like, and I've seen multiple times where, the AMC Lennox by us, or Arena Grand, or whatever, were playing those movies, the ultimate cuts of those movies back to back to back to back to back. So literally you spend an entire day and almost a half in the theater watching these fucking movies. And it's like, yeah. Like, you go in one day and you come out the next. Nah, homie. If you could do that, though, and that exists, and there were other places that just showed the ultimate cuts. If you could do that, then this movie could have been 3 hours long, and have all the information intact, and it would have been better for the audience. After all, that's what you're doing. You're still creating a product. So anyway, like I said, that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I am Strident, and I will catch you guys on the next video. Peace outside.